Welcome back again to Luther Souls Woven in Time by Dugan. Um, Today, I want to read a poem in the end that I wrote for my mom and dad's 50th wedding anniversary. But I want to explain to you how this poem came about. Prior to the party, I decided I want to write a poem, but I wanted input from all my brothers and my sister. So I called each one of them and I said, just tell me random memories you have of growing up. Because we grew up in different eras. We had the same mom and dad, but there's five of us kids, but there's 21 years difference in the first one and the last one. So there's a lot of varied memories. I almost grew up in two different generations. Um, but I called each one of them, and each one of them participated in it and just told me memories they had. And I want to kind of go through those memories and talk about those, and then I'll read the poem. Um, when we were little, we got one Christmas gift each Christmas from Santa. Um, and it was depending on what kind of year, how good a year it was. A lot of times, how much Dad had to spend on doctor expenses. But my brother, he remembered getting a toy train one time, and I remember that too. It was fun because we all loved the train. We all loved to see the train run around in a circle there on the floor. It set the track up in the middle of the living room, and we'd all lay around on the floor. Nobody could handle the controls except my oldest brother and my dad. My dad loved it as much as any of us did. Um, Nina remembered getting baby dolls for Christmas, and as brothers, we weren't real good to her with the baby dolls. I can remember as we got older, my brother and I would operate on those baby dolls, and if they had some baby dolls, when you lay them down, they would cry. We'd take the little noise box out of them, and for whatever reason, the little boys do things like that. Um, I remember, and I don't remember if Bub did, but I remember getting toy cars. Not many. Most of my toy cars when I played out in the dirt were little blocks of wood, but I remember a couple really favorite toy cars that I'd gotten, um, some of them for Christmas. Another thing that I think my youngest brother mentioned this, but all of us have good memories, is Mom's apple pies. Mom made I've never tasted an apple pie, a little uh, apple fritter or whatever. She had, I remember the one thing I remember was a lot of nutmeg in my mom's pies when she would cook them. And she'd cook the pie, just stew the apples, and then take a saucer or something and roll the dough out and cut a little circle. And she put a spoonful of apple in there and then fold it over, punch it down, and fry it. Oh, they were they. I love apple pies, and most any place I go, if I see an apple pie that I've never eaten, I'll try it to see if it's anything like my mom. But I've never found one that measured up to my mom's apple pies. Um, Canning, me and well, I guess all my brothers remember this, but me and my older brother and my sister, we worked in the fields and hoed the beans and picked the beans and washed the jars and mom canning, and it wasn't anything unusual for us when I was little, when it was just the three of us, the first three, that Dad would take a big wash tub or something down at the edge of the field, and he'd say, "Okay, uh, Fred or Bub, I want you to pick this row. Juanita and Nina, pick this row, and Dugan, this is your row, and I want you to pick it. Don't tear the vines up, and we'd have little buckets or bags or something, usually a little lard bucket, and we'd pick it full and we'd take it back and dump it in the wash tub at the end of the road. And I want this done. By the time I get home, these beans better be picked. And he'd go to work in the morning. Well, Mom was usually there when we were little anyway. And we'd start picking. We'd start picking before the sun had come up. He would get us up as soon as it was light enough to see down there, because especially if we were picking peas, the wasps were all over the peas. Once the sun come up, it wasn't only too hot to pick, but the bees and the wasps were so bad around the peas that you couldn't get to them. So we'd pick them, we'd fill the tub up, and usually my brother, he was the oldest one, he would drag the tub up to the backyard. We'd get in the shade, and Mom would come out, and we'd string beans or shell peas or whatever we had picked that morning. And as soon as we got enough that Mom could make a mess or something, she'd start cooking. She'd go in the house. We'd have to finish this up. And we used to play a game we called Post Office or Gossip. I don't remember exactly what, but no, it wasn't Post Office, because Post Office is a game we played as a teenager. That was a kissing game of some kind. I think it was called Gossip or something. I don't know. But you'd whisper something to the person. And a lot of times we'd have cousins come, and maybe aunts or grandparents would come and help shell peas or string beans, and they'd play the game with us. But whoever was closest to us, we'd have to whisper something to them. And you only told them one time. You told it to them. And then they'd whisper to somebody else, and it'd go around the circle. And then it got to the last person. The first person would say, okay, this is what I said. Um, and then the last person would, this is what was told to me. And almost never was it the same thing. Sometimes it was totally off subject. But somebody would miss a word, and you couldn't repeat it. So they had to just, okay, what was that they said? So, but we'd play those games as we'd do that. But Mom would wash jars, and Mom would can, and that was a typical summer's day for us. Uh, One mentioned a thunderstorm particular that we had. We had big old oak trees near our house, and one was out behind the pump house, maybe 15, 20 feet away from the back of the pump house. One summer, we had a bad, bad thunderstorm. Mom and Dad was gone. We were a good size then, probably uh, 8, 10, and 12 years old, maybe 9, 11, and 13, somewhere along in there. But a bad thunderstorm come up one day, and I remember we were in the house with the windows closed and the doors closed. We didn't have air conditioner, so we had to close the windows because the wind was blowing, and thundering, lightning all around us, lightning really close. And all of a sudden, we heard a pop. It sounded like, remembering it now, it seemed like something went off, popped in the house. And we took off out to our Aunt Bob's house. She was home, and her and Buddy and Faye were out there, and we took off running out there. On the way out, the another bolt of lightning hit nearby, and I fell down. I don't remember if I slid down or just the noise scared me and I fell or what, but I got mud because the path that we took was through the garden, so it had been plowed up not too recently. And I was muddy by the time I got out there. But when we got back home, and I think maybe we didn't go back home till Mom and Dad had come home from work. But when we got back home, Dad started walking around, and the big old oak tree that was 15 or 20 feet from behind the pump house had been struck with lightning. And it wasn't a quarter, but it was almost a quarter of that tree had just been ripped out of that tree. And there was a line that went from the bottom of that tree over to the pump house, and it knocked a hole probably as big as my finger through that 6 or 8 inch block wall, and it hit the electricity in the pump house and ran into our house. It blew the fuse box out. I think we had to replace every fuse in that box, and it also the the outlet boxes in every bedroom was just charred, and every one of them was ruined. They just fused together. They had to be taken out and replaced. And the element in the electric range in the kitchen, it had been blown out. It had to be replaced, and we had to wait a while on that. Apparently, it had to be ordered or something because we had to wait a while. We couldn't cook anything. And back then, you didn't have that many ready-made foods, so we ate a lot of sandwiches. I think during that time. Don't think it damaged the refrigerator at all, other than it cut it off. When we got back home, we didn't have any electricity that evening, but I don't think it damaged the refrigerator. But it did knock the the stove out, so we couldn't cook for a few days or a week. So um, I remember we had honeybees, and Daddy robbing honeybees, and uh, he had a friend, Coy Sparrow, and one time they robbed the bees, and uh, my job usually when Dad robbed the bees was taking the honey from the beehive, taking the racks of honey from there up to the back porch where Mom was putting them in jars and canning them. And I would carry the racks in a dishpan, and we usually had about 3 racks. And I may have told this story before, I don't know, but one time after robbing such bees, and Dad had 3 at that time. He had 3 hives, and each hive had about 3 stacks of racks on it. So there was a lot of honey coming off. They robbed all 3 hives, and when we finished, there was a one of the dishpans. I remember going up, taking the last one up there, and there was a dishpan sitting there, and it must have had an inch of honey, maybe more, in the bottom of that pan, and the dishpans were probably that big around at the bottom. And I asked Mom, I said, Mom, can I have that honey? Can I eat that honey? She said, I don't care. Get out of my way. I'm trying to get this. So I took off, and this was before the trees were ever struck with lightning because the trees were out there. And I went out and sat beside that tree, and I ate every bit of that honey. Um, I'll just say that I didn't need a laxative for a while. Before by dark that night, man, that honey was and I was probably an adult before I ever ate honey again. It just did not leave a good taste in my mouth. Um, Also, I think my sister mentioned it. She was my daddy's honey girl. Uh, my dad loved his honey girl. He only had one little girl, and he loved his honey girl. And the boys knew it, especially me and Bub. We knew that we knew that the wrath would come upon us if we were not nice to her. And I can remember my brother doing things, and uh, he was older than me, so he was more experienced. But he would make her mad, and I remember him talking to her and trying to talk her down, and making sure that she wasn't going to tell on him and get him in trouble. Uh, because if you did, you had to answer to Dad if you did anything to her. Um, we had a toy called a Jury Boy when we were little, and that's the real name because I looked it up. But I've never seen no. I don't remember anybody else having it. But it was such a good toy because you could ride it. We lived in the country, and Jury Boy's back wheels were big enough that you could ride it across dirt, gravel, whatever, and you propelled it with your hand, pulling a lever back and forth, and you drove it. You guided it with your feet. And we played with that till my brother and I decided we wanted to use the big wheels on the back for a coaster car, and we tore it up. And I've kicked myself ever since because I love that toy, and it'd be such an iconic thing to have today. Um, we used to go for walks, especially on Sundays, uh, Saturday evenings in the spring, but especially in the fall of the year when the evenings would start cooling down a little bit, and it was pleasant to walk. And um, I can remember Mom walking along, holding Dad's arm, and us kids. Again, it was just the 3 of us at that time uh, playing, and we'd go down by the spring or down the marshy area around the little creeks and branches, And there was a flower we called it, I don't know if it's a real name for it or not, we called it Johnny in the Pulpit. It was a green leaf, if I remember, a green type flower, and it was in kind of a circle. And on the front side of it, where it kind of opened up, the center of the flower looked like somebody standing behind a pulpit. So I guess that's where the name Johnny in the Pulpit came. Uh, we had the biggest front yard in the area. We lived back off the road, and we had the biggest front yard. And it wasn't unusual in the summertime for me and Bub and Neener, Buddy and Faye, sometimes Vernell McCraw, my cousins Monroe, Wayne, and Edward. Don't remember if Ann ever came up there or not because she was younger than us, and maybe the boys wouldn't let her come. I don't know, but I don't remember if she did or not. But the Broadways would come over, whoever in the area, and we'd play out in the backyard, Red Rover and Stoplight, or hide and go seek, whatever. We had a big area there we could play in. I remember many nights that's the way we entertained ourselves. Mom and Dad wouldn't let us get on the computers. Uh, so we had to find things to keep ourselves busy.
Did y'all have a telephone then?
No, we didn't have a telephone. Not most of the time. But when we had a telephone, it was either a four. I think we actually were on an 8-party line at one time. Yeah, and so when you and I do know that people listen in because we listened in.
Yeah.
But we had neighbors listening too. We had a neighbor that my mom would she would share um, some gossip that she would hear other family members talking about because she was on the same party line with us, and I remember her spreading us a little bit of gossip. Um, in the wintertime too, every winter, my mom, when the weather got cold, Mom would set a quilting frame up in the kitchen or in the living room, excuse me, and in that on that quilting frame, she set it up on the back of straight chairs, maybe kitchen chairs, I don't know. Um, but she set it up, and that was our activity for the winter. On the evenings when we come home from school, if it was cold, we'd do our chores, and we quilted. Uh, everybody had a needle, or I don't think it was actually anybody's needle, but there were several needles sticking around all sides of the quilting frame, and you just wherever you were, you just sat down or stood sometime, and you sew. You might sew for 5 minutes, you might sew for an hour, and we sometimes I think we made as many as 2 quilts at times. Um, I mean, 2 quilts in one winter, but I know about almost every winter we made a quilt, and that was a memory that especially the three oldest had. Um, Daddy chewed tobacco when we were younger, and I think that was Dad's excuse because uh, several of us mentioned, and all 5 of us can remember when Dad chewed tobacco, and all of us mentioned Dad just taking off, going and chewing tobacco, taking a walk, and I think that was his escape. But he didn't chew in the house. He didn't have spit cups. Now my grandparents, his parents, and my aunts and uncles on his side, they had spit cups that they had sitting around the house, wherever in their cars, and but my dad, he didn't. I don't know if mom didn't allow it or dad didn't want it either. But we never had spit cups in the house. If dad was going to chew tobacco, he went outside, and I think he used that just to get away from time.
Take a break from everybody.
Yeah, just him and his tobacco. He could think.
Yeah.
My oldest brother, I remember my dad playing softball. Now, he played fast pitch softball, and he was a pitcher and played right field when he wasn't pitching. But my brother's got a memory that they went down to Revolution one time, Revolution ball field, and they had benches on either side of the first base line, the third base line. And that's where the team said they didn't have dugouts. They just sat on the benches. And excuse me, they had benches that the ball players sat on. Well, my brother went with Dad by himself. Mom was home with me and my sister. My brother was about 6 years old, so that would have made me 2 years old. And he was there with Dad by himself. And it was a tight ball game, and there was a lot of harassing and yelling and uh, trying to get people off their game. And the team that Dad played on, it was time for them to go back in the field. So Dad was pitching, so he walks back out on the pitcher's mound. When he got out there, they really started harassing my dad. Well, no, Fred, did you bring some help with you this time? Because without thinking, my little brother, when Dad stood up, my little brother, or my older brother, his little boy, grabbed my dad's finger, and Dad just walked out there on the pitcher's mound, and my brother holding his hand. So they really got on my dad about bringing some help to the pitcher's mound to see if he could help him out pitching. That was a memory of my brother's. Uh, my brother and I, my older brother and I too, used to go on a lot of walks at nighttime with our dad. Even after we had a car, in early days we didn't have a car. If we went anywhere, we had to walk, and we heated with a kerosene heater. And we had a 5-gallon can, and we would walk to Poindexter store or Bill Fields. Poindexter's a little closer, and we could walk around the road. Bill Fields was probably about as close, but we had to walk through the woods. And at nighttime, especially if it was a new moon, there wasn't any much light out there. Dad preferred walking around the road. But I got particularly good memories about that because we'd walk along and my dad would sing. I remember him singing Old Faithful and a lot of other songs, My Pretty Little Pink, a lot of different songs that he had known, I guess, for years and years and years. And we'd look at the sky and so forth. But I remember those walks. And he'd put 3 gallon of kerosene in that 5-gallon can. And he would bring it back home. And sometimes he'd have to stop, or he would stop and change arm. He'd set it down, pick it up with the other hand carry. And many a time, my brother and I both, we'd want to help him. So we'd help, and he'd let us carry it. And there were times that I probably didn't carry more than 10 or 12 steps. And I'd have to set it down. I'm having to carry it with both hands. And so, but those are pleasant memories of mine. I also remember the summer of 1953 when I got sick with appendicitis. I remember day or night, it didn't matter what time of day, in the middle of the night, oh, I hurt so bad. And I was just uncomfortable. I hurt. I was hungry all the time because I couldn't eat. I couldn't keep anything on my stomach. And I remember calling Mom, and no matter when I called her, she was there. She was right there with me. So another memory we have, pretty much all of us, was killing hogs. You could tell, not only at our house, but anybody that owned hogs, you could tell when it was hog killing time because all the doorknobs were greasy. It was hard to come in. You didn't need to lock your doors because it's hard to turn the knob to get in the house anyway because everything was so greasy. But that was a busy, busy day, and usually neighbors, my grandparents, uncles, aunts, anybody that had the time and could, they'd come and help cut up the pig and cut the fat off of it, and then we'd cook the lard in a big wash pot in the backyard, and we'd cook that fat out, make lard, and that's what we used for cooking for the next year, as well as the pig. The pigs that we killed, usually it was two, and everybody that came and helped, they'd get some sausage or get a cut of meat to go home with them. But the rest of it went in the smokehouse, and Dad would salt it down, and that's the way we cured our meat and kept it. It was salted, and if Mom needed some, she'd tell Dad he'd go down to the smokehouse, and even though it wasn't a real smokehouse, we called it smokehouse, but he'd go down he'd cut a hunk or whatever she needed or whatever she told him she wanted. He'd go down and wipe the salt off of it and then bring it back up to the house and wash it, just wash all the salt out he could get. And then she cooked with it, and that's what we ate. I remember when I got into high school, well, let me go with mimosa trees. We had family up in the mountains of North Carolina, and we had a family member that across the road from where they lived, they had mimosa trees in their front yard, but across the road there was just a thicket of mimosa trees. And one summer when we were up there, we got 3 mimosa trees. One was mine, one was Nina's, and one was Bub's. And we were planted across the backyard, and each one of them was ours. And Nina's grew faster than mine or Bub's, either one. Um, and I think the main reason, she washed most of the dishes, and the dishes were washed in a dishpan. And when she would finish washing the dishes, she'd take the water and take it and pour it on her tree. So her tree grew bigger and stronger than mine or Bub's. But all 3 of them made it to adulthood. And we liked climbing. They were easy to climb. We could climb far in them, but they didn't go up far before they split. You could, as little kids, we could get up there, and that's about as far as we went that first split. And just something to do rather than playing with our computers. Um, Later on, when my brother went to high school, he played football. And I think, to my remembrance, Dad was at all the home games anyway when my brother played ball. But the year that my brother, in 1959, when he graduated from high school, my dad got a promotion and he went on the second shift. So he wasn't able to come to my football games or track meets, but once a year during football season, and maybe in the spring too, because Dad did come to some of my track meets. Um, um, he would come to one football game, and each year he would take a night off at work and go to a football game. Um, I remember too, a lot of times we didn't have family prayers. We'd get in bed, and there's 2 things my mom would always yell to us: "Don't forget to say your prayers." And another thing, "Youngins, you washed your feet before you went to bed, didn't you? I don't want you to have to go to the emergency room and your feet be dirty." Um, I guess that's what she prayed about, that we washed our feet. I don't know. Um, uh, we would, a lot of times, me and my brother, me and Burnell McCraw, me and Wayne, whoever was with, and it may have been more than 2 of us, uh, we decided we want to drink. And drinking a soft drink was not near as prevalent in my life as it is in most people's lives today. Because a soft drink cost a whole nickel. Then you had to pay a deposit of a penny for the bottle. But some people were wasteful enough, they'd just throw their empty bottles out the side of the road out of their car and throw them. Well, we'd walk down the road. If we could find 5 bottles, we'd go to the store. We'd get a drink. We'd have to drink it there because we didn't have a penny to pay for the deposit. But we'd collect bottles and then go buy a drink with the 5 bottles.
But this was when they were in glass bottles.
Yeah, the bottles were glass. Yeah. But we'd do that sometimes if we ever saw a bottle on the side of the road, we'd pick it up, take it home, and take it to the store when we went. And the stores really didn't like the dirty bottles because they knew where we got them from. But it didn't matter because the bottling company took them back and sterilized them and washed them and cleaned them up too. So that didn't matter, but that was fun. Um, I remember I had a favorite shirt. That was long about the 3rd grade too. Right, maybe it was a winter after I got out of the hospital. But I had a shirt. Dad would buy bags, and sometimes Mom would go to the feed store, and Dad would buy cow feed or pig feed, and Mom would pick out the bag that she wanted to buy in because it was what they called brand sacks, and she'd take it and you could pull the thread out and you had a big piece of material, and she could make a dress for my sister, or she could make a shirt for me. And I remember there was one, it was I guess about a royal blue color shirt, and it had little boys and girls walking around. It had "Going to Grandma's" written all over the shirt. And I remember when she made that, it was either the second or the third grade. I loved that shirt. That was my favorite shirt until I outgrew it.
And that was a feed sack?
That was a feed sack. It was made out of a feed sack. And my sister wore the feed sack dresses till she got embarrassed to wear them to school, and she asked Mom not to do that anymore for her. So, but when we were doing it was probably the best my mom and dad could do. Um, uh, Another thing, and I think my youngest brother mentioned this too. One of my brothers did. Was Mom's blue eyes. My mom had the prettiest clear blue eyes, and my dad loved her blue eyes. Um, so with those memories that they had, I sat down and wrote a poem for my mom and dad's 50th wedding anniversary. And one more thing I want to tell you about this poem. We had the anniversary party one evening, and we went back to Mom and Dad's place, and I don't remember how many of us were there, but um, Mom said something about she needed something to fix for breakfast in the morning. She didn't have something of what she wanted to fix for breakfast in the morning. So me, one of my brothers, and my dad went to the grocery store and get a pound of bacon or a gallon of milk, get something that Mom said she needed for breakfast the next morning. So we're still dressed with shirt and tie on, and I had no idea at the time, but not on this poem. Not only did I read the poem at Mom and Dad's wedding, but we rolled them up and tied little ribbons on them, and people could take one if they wanted. Well, a little bit annoyance to me and my brother. My dad had some in his pocket. He'd taken it. We get to the grocery store, and the lady that checks us out, my dad pulled one out of his pocket and handed it. He said, "You want to read this? My son wrote this for us, for me and my wife. Today was our 50th wedding anniversary." And the lady just smiled at me and my brother. We looked at each other. We were both surprised. We didn't know he was going to do this. And Dad was not near as outgoing a man as I was. He was a good storyteller, but he wasn't near as brash as I was. But he was proud of that poem, and it made me feel good that he thought that much of it. But the title of the poem is called Mom and Dad, and I'd like to share that with you. I think of home and Mom and Dad with memories rushing through my head. Treasures I will keep for life of my dad and his darling wife. In all, I look back through the years, observing all through joyous tears. To sort these treasures, there's no hope. Its beauty's like a kaleidoscope. Dad's at work and Mom's at home, or Dad is home while Mom is gone. A toy train, a baseball glove, fried apple pies that's glazed with love. A baby doll or toy cars, Mom canning and washing jars. Hot summer days and thunderstorms, long Sunday walks on Daddy's arms. Raking leaves and cutting wood, spankings when we weren't so good. All different kinds of Christmas trees. Dad's out. Dad's all dressed up to rob the bees. Daddy's dark hair with the little curls, watching after his honey girl. Riding on a jury boy seems to be the perfect toy. Johnny in the pulpit by the creek. Summer nights playing hide and seek. Gathered round a quilting frame. The fireplace with its flickering flame. Walking down a dusty road or through a field that's just been hoed. One of us has lost a shoe. Dad's outside to take a chew. Front row seat at the softball game. Dad should have been in the Hall of Fame. Schoolwork in their crumpled folders. All those rides on Daddy's shoulders. Nighttime walks or songs we'd sing. The times we'd play on Pawpaw's swing. So sick that I was blurry-eyed. Mama all night long there by my side. Killing hogs or cooking lard. Good things happen when you work real hard. Playing around the mimosa tree. Donald and Sylvester eating bees. Football games or a track meet. Dad was there in colder heat. Stories of ghosts and things that creep. Prayers we'd say before we'd sleep. Collecting bottles by the road. Wearing clothes that Mama sewed. The beautiful blue that's in the sky can still be seen in Mama's eye. Choices made both right and wrong. Choices are what makes us strong. The wisest choice we've ever made is not a choice we made today, nor even one that we recall. It may not have been our choice at all, regardless of who made the choice. Let us say in resounding voice that we're so thankful every day that we can stand and proudly say, this gray-haired man that you all know and the lady that we love so, we owe them more than we can pay. So in our prayers and every day, we thank our Father who's in heaven for the parents we've been given. And again, that's the poem I wrote for my mom and dad's 50th wedding anniversary. It meant a lot to my mom and my dad, especially my dad, I know. And I'd like to leave that with you and ask you to be pretty and visit me again.